Welcome to Tomcat Tweakers, another production by F-14 Calverton, all things Grumman. This is our Grumman in-house show, and looking forward to this mini-series. And tonight we're joined by the legendary Bill Barto from Grumman Aerospace Corporation. An absolutely amazing employee, and proud to call Grummanite. Also, the host of the show, we have Ray Borelli, VF-11 Red Ripper. Also, SYPHIN, VF-31 Tomcatters. Good evening. Take it over.
All right, guys. Well, welcome to the show, and Bill, thanks for joining us. Just for everybody's curiosity, Bill is my brother-in-law, and been married to my sister for quite a long time, and we've shared a lot of Grumman history and times together. So it's really proud. I'm real proud to be able to interview my brother-in-law. So welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
I'm not used to calling you that, but for the show, we'll get through with it.
That's quite all right.
Okay. First question, I got to jump in, Mr. Color Commentary. The air crew is color commentary today. What do you normally call him?
Well, I grew up calling him Chet, C-H-E-T.
Okay.
So it's I've never called him Bill in my life until today. So
I'll keep you honest on that.
Because
I know it's Bill, so thanks, Bill.
Later.
As the producer, I'm going to chime in now, and I'm going to ask why he's called Chet.
Okay.
It's my middle name.
Roger.
Okay. And my father's name was William. My first name is William. And in order to tell us apart, he kept William, and my mother insisted on calling me by my middle name. Now, we all know that in the military, everything is last name, first name, middle initial.
Yep.
So that's how William and Bill came about. Because I'd be damned if I'm going to stand there and explain to everybody why it's the way it is. So I just let it ride.
Yep.
That's simple.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So Chet, tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
Grew up Bayshore, Long Island, New York. Born 1948. Went to Bayshore High School. Graduated from Bayshore High School in 1966. Kind of bummed around for about a year until my dad finally got me aside and said, "You got to think of your future. What are you going to do?"
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I don't know. I didn't want to hear that. So he said, "You should do what your brother did." And I have an older brother. He's from my dad's first marriage, and he was in World War II. And what he did was, of course, he enlisted in the Army Air Corps. He was a maintenance guy on multi-engine aircraft like B-25, B-24, B-29. And he got great schooling out of that. However, that's not what he did with his life afterwards, because nobody could anticipate the GI Bill. When the GI Bill came along, well, that opened up all kinds of vistas. And he chose to be an industrial arts teacher, or as we called them in the day, a shop teacher.
Right.
And yes, I had him for class. Okay. That was really weird.
I bet.
All right. So anyway, after that, then, my dad said I should go to an Army vocational school. Because my parents did not have the wherewithal to send me to college. So that's what it meant. We said, do what my brother did. And he went to an Army vocational school, even though he didn't use that in later life, but he could have.
Sure.
So my dad said, "You like to draw. You're a darn good draftsman. Your printing is excellent. Why don't just expand on that, join the Corps of Engineers, get to do all kinds of things." And at first I thought, I'm going to drive a bulldozer. I don't think so. So he said, no. He says, that's not what it's all about. And he sent me down to see the local Army recruiter, and he explained the whole thing to me. And the Army Corps of Engineers sounded like the way to go.
Yep.
I signed up.
Awesome. And I actually, remember when I was a kid, you'd send me patches from Vietnam, which was just, I always looked forward to your care packages, and my mom would sew them on my denim jacket and things like that. So that was super cool. So So obviously, I let it out of the bag that you went to Vietnam. So after your Army tour, how'd you get started in Grumman?
Well, when I was separated from active duty at Fort Myer, Virginia, I took a job with Computer Science Corporation. They were contractors to the Army, and the job was offered to me, so I took it.
Hmm.
And for a year, I worked there until they lost the contract with the Army that they had for a million years. They got swept under the rug, and that was that. And of course, being first last guy in, first guy out, kind of a thing. My wife and I decided let's just go home, New York. Let's just go back there. Right. Now, in the meanwhile, the F-14 is in all the newspapers.
What time frame is this?
Pardon me?
What time frame was this?
1970.
Okay, before. I mean, the Tomcat was brand new. I mean, it was just beginning to fly at that point.
Right. And we're still talking about pre-production aircraft at this point. That's aircrafts 1 through 12. They're always in the paper. The F-14 was always in the paper, sometimes not for the right reasons. but I thought, well, why don't I give this Grumman thing a whirl? Plus, on the bench was the space shuttle. And Grumman looked like it was going to get the space shuttle. I mean, why not? We made the lunar modules and not one failed. Not one, right? We all know about the command module failing in Apollo 13, and it was the limb that kept them alive.
Yeah, in fact, it did triple duty there. So yeah, absolutely. Apollo 13 lunar module was astounding.
And Raymond's dad can, shed more light on that, but unfortunately, he's not here to do that. However, Grumman had such a solid reputation with the government, not just the Navy, that it just seemed natural that they would get the space shuttle contract. So down to the personnel office I went, armed with all my Army drawings and everything I ever did, and applied to be a draftsman. And they said, sure, we're going to need them. This is long before CAD. There's no computer-aided design at this point. It's going to be a sea of desks with guys drawing. Fine. That's right up my alley. They said, okay, sit tight. We'll give you a call. Well, they didn't have to give me a call because Newsday landed on the front step of the house, and it said that North American Rockwell is prime contractor for the space shuttle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Now, I wanted to get into Grumman, and Raymond's father advised me, you want to get in that bag, go back down there, the personnel, tell them you'll take whatever they got. Whatever there's an opening, take it. In about a year, keep your eye on the job opportunity bulletin board, and you just might find the job you want. And damn, he was right. So
awesome.
I went down there and I took a job in the shops in Plant 2, making sub-assemblies for the F-14, E2C, A6, the A6B, E2. That was rudder pedals, motor mounts, and arresting hooks.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that part.
I got to see what goes into making an aircraft.
Yeah.
And every once in a while to be a crunch out at Calverton where they had to get aircraft number, I think the first crunch was aircraft number 58. It's got to go out. It's got to go out by the end of the year. So they rounded up a lot of us and we did yeoman work going out there to Calverton so the experienced guys could do the more, intense assembly of the airplane. And we made it. And Mr. Skirler was president of the company at the time, and the Navy loved that. They loved him, and we kept going. So after the Christmas break, we just picked up where we left off. I went back to Plant 2, and don't you think I found on a job opportunity sheet an opening for a technical illustrator.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Now, before you get to that, I've got a question, okay? Because I recognize I'm the only person on this call who has never lived in New York, less yet Long Island. So I'm sorry. I'm a Virginia boy. You should have stayed higher, in my opinion, but that's just a different story. Anyway, so I know probably a lot of people won't have this context and won't necessarily understand what you mean when you say Plant 2. I mean, I've heard people talk about it. I've heard our dear producer talk about it. So I've learned from that, but having never been there, you talk about Calverton, you talk about Plant 2. What was the difference there? Yeah.
Well, Plant 2 was in Bethpage.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the sub-assemblies, if not all, were made in either plants 1, 2, or 3 for all the production aircraft. Even parts of fuselages for E2, F-14, A6, so on. And
so it wasn't just Tomcat stuff. It was anything they were producing at the time.
All 5 aircraft programs were running full tilt at the same time. So in the middle of the night, all this stuff would be loaded on a flatbed, and they'd get the first the Nassau County, then the Suffolk County Police to escort out on the Long Island Expressway that connects pretty much Bethpage to Calverton, which is way out east.
And what kind of distance is that?
50 miles.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now, I know that off the top of my head because every time you had to go to Calverton, when you left any gate in Bethpage, it'd be a sign. And it would say it's 50 miles from this point to Calverton. And why did the company post such a sign? So that you can't cheat on the expense report.
You're not claiming anything more than 50 miles.
No, you can't say, hey, man, it's 100 miles out there, you know? So
I got lost.
No. They knew. So that was a gentle reminder to put that down on your expense report.
Nice.
So 50 miles, that was about an hour trip by car to go out there. And once I got onto the NATOPS program in Tech Pubs, I was taking the air crew out there all the time. There was 2 things they wanted to see. Raymond will know one of them, but I mention it in a minute. But the first thing they wanted to see, of course, was the production line and final assembly and flight test.
Yeah.
The other thing they wanted to see was a little facility, not on Grumman property, but it was on the corner of Wading River Road and Middle Country Road, where the Grumman Calverton facility was located, and it was called the Crazy Clown.
So
every single guy I ever took out there said, "Hey, could we stop at the Crazy Clown on the way back to Bethpage?" You know, yeah, okay, but we got to make it short, you know, because after all, I'm a contractor, I can't get into trouble, you know.
And for the record, there was just a ton of crazy clowns in that place, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
So okay, so you did that for a little bit, and then they did pick you up for kind of more what you were hoping to do.
Yes. I answered the advertisement, if you will, on the board, and I got an interview, and once again brought all the stuff I did in the service. And the first program they put me on, lo and behold, was the OB-1 Mohawk. That's an Army airplane, and it was also in my unit. We had an aviation battalion that had Mohawks. So it was a natural, not a problem. At least I got my foot in the door, and I'm in Tech Pubs. And it was divided up by program. OB-1 Mohawk, A6, A6B, E2C/C2, and of course F-14. F-14, of course, was the plum. Everybody wanted to be on that. And the plum of being on the F-14 program was to do the flight manual. And when I was
you mean this?
You mean one of these?
Yes.
Big blue sleeping pill. Yes, I still have mine. Although mine was produced somewhere after the time when you're doing it, because that's a slightly different model.
Oh yeah, that's the later one. Because we didn't put real wings on the early ones.
Oh yes.
This is dated 1982.
Nice.
This is my first NATOPS manual where 90% of the illustrations in this book are mine.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tech writer that I worked with comes down the aisle one day and he hands me this thing. He says, "Here, this is for you." And I thought he meant to keep it in the library, which was kept in a big safe tub on wheels for security reasons. And he said, "Oh, it's not classified, but besides, it's yours. Now for your library, it's for you. It's yours. Your first book."
Awesome.
So I've had it all these years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's
I
great.
do notice though that they're missing the real wings on there. I mean, what is that? What's going on with that?
I don't know. I used to ask that. I said, it takes two guys to fly this thing. So where are the other wings? And
Well, it actually takes it takes two, and you can fly it with the one, but it might as well not exist without the other. So I mean,
Yeah.
Well, there's a page in this book that's very, very special to me.
Oh,
I don't know if you can make out the signatures on here. There's
A little
bio
bit.
Barrett down at the
uh-huh.
bottom, and up at the top is Heater Heatley.
Yeah, nice.
Two awesome legends.
Yeah,
Yeah, you bet.
absolutely.
Nice.
Awesome. So Chad, after so you were in tech pubs for a while. How long were you in tech pubs?
Let's see, from 11 years.
11
From
years.
74 to 84, 10 years.
Right. Wow.
And then I went off.
Go ahead.
I went off to the Grumman History Center. I
Right.
always had a bug about history, and I made friends with the corporate historian. And when he retired, his assistant moved into that slot. So the assistant historian slot was open. I applied for it, and I got it.
Wow.
Awesome.
So, I mean, I'd sit there in the office and look around. I go, and they pay me for this? I can't believe this. I just can't believe this.
That's the kind of thing that a quality company does. I mean, like, there are some companies that don't exist for very long or whatever, and they do their business, and then they cease to exist, and it happens. But a company that is kind of recognizing the concept of legacy and the concept of long-term existence is doing something like that, and so it's really cool that you got to be part of that. I mean, unfortunately, it's not gone as well as we might have hoped in terms of Grumman being a standalone company anymore. But it's really cool that you got to do that.
Well, a lot of authors that would come to the History Center to research for a book, whatever aircraft they decided they wanted to work on, sooner or later they would say no other airplane company they've ever visited has a history office.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
I was surprised.
I would assume like your Lockheed Martin or whatever has that also.
Well, they may have that sort of thing now, but back in the 80s, I thought too that McDonnell Douglas and all the rest of them must have had something like this. And they said the closest thing to a history office in McDonnell Douglas was a guy that was the Douglas historian. Now he was part of public affairs, so he's wearing two hats.
Oh yeah, actually, my grandfather worked for Douglas Aircraft out in Long Beach, or wherever that was, Los Angeles area. And I do know that Douglas did have a historian, but that was before they were McDonnell Douglas. So yeah.
Yeah.
Is it because Grumman makes planes that actually make history? Just saying. I mean, there's Tomcats and Targets. We know this.
It's true.
That slogan was in the History Center on the wall, up on the wall. Grumman makes planes that makes history.
Ah.
Yep.
Yeah,
nice.
Believe it. And the historian had one that read on his desk that said, "Historians live in the past."
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah. And his background, he was a World War II pilot flying P-51 Mustangs in Europe.
Oh, wow.
Shot down 3 Germans. He was the most modest guy you'd ever want to meet. It took me a long time to go, what? Huh? You?
Yeah.
He just didn't come across as the silk scarf kind of guy. He's just a regular guy, did his thing, loved flying.
Yeah.
So 3 years in the History Center. Now you're probably wondering why 3 years. This doesn't add up to a 20-year career yet. Well, the F-14D finally got turned on in the late 80s. All right. And when I heard that, I went back to my old boss in publications, and I went, "You're going to need a guy to do the NATOPS, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And he's looking at me. He says, "You can't be serious." I said, "I am serious. I want to be on the ground floor of this."
Yeah.
He says, "Good. Now you saved me a headache." He says, "Because I didn't know who the hell I was going to give this job to."
So So you went into Historian Center and then back out into pubs.
Back to pubs, right?
Right. Okay.
So I could work on the F-14D.
Very
Sure,
nice.
Sure. Awesome.
So I
So-
loved doing that. So,
So you
to
did that
wind up
for,
my-
I was gonna say you
Okay.
did that for the rest of your time, eh?
So the last 3 years of my career at Grumman, I got a phone call from Vice President of Public Affairs, Corporate Public Affairs, who knew me almost the whole time I worked at Grumman, knew what made me tick, knew what I was interested in, knew my talents, knew everything.
Yeah.
And he invites me to come back to Public Affairs. But when I say come back, History Center was part of Public Affairs before you would never know it. We were in another building in the basement away from headquarters. So,
Yeah.
right. So I go over there, he talks to me, tells me what the job entails, and it was to coordinate corporate participation in trade shows, air shows, special events, things of that nature. He was honing in on the fact that I can draw. I know the corporate history. I know the products. I know what's on the drawing board, so to speak, of what Grumman is looking to produce after the F-14.
Forgive the pun there, the drawing board.
Yeah, I know. Well, I wish I still had my drawing board. Anyway, so after he explained everything, he wrote down something on a piece of paper, folded it in half, and gave it to me and said, "Do not open this. Promise me until you get home and talk this over with your wife." I said, "Sure." However, it's a long walk from headquarters building to Plant 15 where technical publications is. And once I got out of the line of sight of headquarters building, I had to look at that paper, and
Sure.
it was a salary. And I looked at that and I knew I would never make this kind of bread in tech pubs.
Sure.
And I was making a okay salary, but this was like, I couldn't believe it. So I talked it over with my wife, and she said, "It's up to you if you want to do it." The downside of that job was it involved a lot of traveling,
Yeah.
and my kids were little, and I kind of missed some of the things that they got involved with in school, especially my son Eric. He was on the lacrosse team. I couldn't attend all the games. Sometimes I'd show up for the beginning of a game in the afternoon, and then I had to leave, catch a flight to Washington or wherever the heck they were sending me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was going pretty good until things changed in Washington and decisions were made and corporate decisions were made.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, we're part of another company.
Sure. Sure.
So saying that,
Dick Cheney.
F-14 contract was terminated.
Yeah.
A6F contract terminated.
Dick
At the
Cheney.
Cradle of Aviation Museum, we have aircraft number 2, A6F, has exactly 3.5 hours on the flight on its airframe.
Wow.
It took off, and it was headed for the range, which is there were 2 of them. One on the north coast of Long Island, over Long Island Sound, but the one used the most was on the southeast end of Long Island, over the Atlantic. And they were spaced apart like that because we couldn't interfere with airliners coming in from Europe.
We were talking about that at the last show.
But that didn't mean that our Grumman test pilots, and Raymond will know what I'm talking about, weren't playing tag with Russian trawlers out there.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Skirler was always getting phone calls from the State Department, who got a phone call from the Soviet embassy, who wanted to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So
You're snot-nosed jockeys.
Yeah, I mean, buzzing the trawlers. What do you want?
By windows the ship.
Hey, international waters. I mean, hello.
Yeah, I know, but they complained anyway. They complained.
Yeah.
So with the drawdown of personnel, really didn't matter what you did, how enthusiastic you are, and things like that. A lot of good people got caught up in that, and I was one of them. And my Grumman career ended exactly to the day, 20 years from
Gotcha.
November 6, 1972 to November 6, 1992.
Gotcha.
Wow. Wow.
But I have no regrets. Yeah, everybody
No.
says to me, how can you be so gung-ho, Grumman? Look what they did to you. I said, they didn't do anything to me. Grumman didn't do it. Grumman didn't say, you get out.
Yeah.
They had to.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was just the nature of the game.
It's a beautiful thing, though. I mean, it's amazing to me, and I gotta, my hat's off to you, literally, both of you, because
Mine is to you too. Sit in the back of one of my airplanes.
well, I wouldn't have had an airplane. This manual would not look nearly as interesting as it did. I would not have learned as much about the Tomcat. I would not have been able to fly the Tomcat, especially the D model that I flew. It was a real blessing to me. So I thank you guys for making it happen.
That's awesome.
It's not one of those things you get to do very often. Thank the guys who gave you the opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, but it was a
Yeah.
labor of love. I mean, yeah, okay, they were paying me, and I had to pay the bills and all that kind of thing. But I loved every minute of it, especially when they sent me on to the USS Nimitz and observe carrier operations.
Mm.
I mean, not many technical illustrators get to do that.
To see your drawing come to life, right?
Exactly. Watch them actually do a walk around. Watch them do all that pre-flight stuff.
Yeah.
Watch them get into the jet. Watch plane captains get them out of there, get them hooked up onto the catapult, and watch that happen. That was just amazing.
And as we've said many times, I know Ray knows this as well, but the jet isn't the same thing when it's land-based. Something about bouncing off steel with salt air around, with the slimy, greasy deck that it is, just brings the jet to life. And so when you see it in its environment, its real environment, not just taken off out of Calverton or whatever. I mean, that's great and all, but when you see it in its real environment, then you're like, okay, this is why I've been doing what I was doing. You can really see obviously you're seeing just the carrier operations, and that's just a small percentage of what we were really doing, because if we were staying overhead the carrier, we still weren't really doing our job. But nonetheless, to see it operating in that environment, I'm sure must have been really eye-opening, and just really kind of brought home the reason why you did what you did.
Yep.
Food for thought.
Loved every minute.
Built them and kept them. We still have 712 Tomcats polished sitting on the ramp at Calverton.
Nah.
They had a purpose, unfortunately, and fulfilled it though. So
Yeah.
Don't forget, 80 of those went to Iran.
Yeah.
Actually, 79.
79.
The 80th one stayed here.
A very appropriate number for the year that happened. 79. Interesting.
Yes, isn't it?
It was
well,
crazy.
And as we talked
because-
about on the last show, also we had one crew of two guys that lost 3 jets.
Yeah.
We can't keep that up either.
Bill, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
157980, the first Tomcat, which crashed on its second flight, which is actually, we're getting right about near that time here. I understand, as history serves, the wing box had survived the accident because of the sand on Long Island wasn't,
Yes,
rock.
yes, it did.
So
Yes, it did.
it's pretty much one piece when they pulled it out. I'm told it was put on display in Bethpage in headquarters on the entrance area. What happened to that? Well, Northrop took over, and where did that wing box go? I know, obviously, it was the first Tomcat.
That's a damn good question.
Right.
When after the crash, first that wing box went into Plant 3, and it was bolted to a jig, and they would use that to test wing sweep. Put wings on the wing box, right?
Oh, so it became the wing sweep actuator test box.
Yeah, pretty much, right? And one day I was over in Plant 3, and all hell broke loose with buzzers and lights and all this kind of crap going on. And I didn't know what the heck happened. And I asked somebody what's going on. He says they're doing a wing sweep test. So he says go over there just so you can get only just so close. And I get there, and there it is, the wing box, and it's painted purple. Does anybody know why an airplane part would be painted purple?
Not for flight use, maybe? I don't know.
Correct. not
Okay.
for flight, not
Right.
for flight.
Because
So
it had obviously it
nobody
has sustained
could
some
grab it in a
damage.
pinch
Either
and say, "Oh, we got to put this in the latest production plane."
yeah. It's not to spec anymore. It'll work well enough as a jig, but
Yes, right. And the integrity of this thing was astounding. So that's why they used it to test wing sweep.
that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
put in a
really
pair of wings,
I
sweep
love
them
that story.
back and forth, then tie them together and ship them out to Calverton for final assembly.
So, if I am understanding correctly, that means that other than the first 12 that were made, or how many were made when the first flight took place? Maybe 6 of them? I don't even know. Somebody knows that. But anyway,
When first flight took place, only one.
only the one.
Yeah, number 2 was under construction, but it wasn't complete yet.
Okay. Well, so there was a line of jets that were in process, but basically from the time that they dug that out of the sand and put it in Plant 3, basically every Tomcat that was ever made used Jet 1's wing box as their.
Pretty much.
So every jet I ever flew was tested on wing box from Jet 1. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Good analogy. Good point.
I
have
That's,
really
One other
cool.
question. One other question for you, Bill.
Yeah.
Is there a Tomcat of all 712 in the build number? Is there one that is significant above any other to Grumman, a milestone Tomcat, we'll say? I know 986 was the prototype F-14D. It's white and with the red racing stripe on it over at Trepid Museum today. But is there one fleet Persian is for whatever reason that just seemed to stand out amongst the rest?
As far as the company is concerned, they love them all.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's the one that's now over in the Cradle of Aviation Museum, 164603. It was last flown by Puck. I know SYPHIN knows who Puck is.
Oh yeah,
All right.
my skipper and XO.
That aircraft, as you mentioned earlier, landed in Republic in Farmingdale, Long Island, Republic Airport, where the American Air Power Museum is. And I was affiliated with that museum at the time. And we offered to babysit, if you will, that aircraft, that jet, after it got demilled, which, by the way, I didn't stick around for. I just couldn't. Watch them rip the airplane apart. After the ceremonies, I got my car and went home.
Yeah.
Same
Okay.
here.
So we kept it clean. I got the downlock strut because I would pass that airplane every time I went to work on New Highway, and I saw the nose was getting closer and closer and closer to the ground. I went, not right. So I called some people I knew down at Oceana at the now Northrop Grumman Field Service office, and I said, I need a downlock strut. You do? Says the guy on the phone. Well, it just so happens I'm looking at one right now laying on this desk.
Sitting on his desk.
Well, we've been told to, deep six all this stuff. I said, how about you put it in a nice big wooden box and send it up here to New York because I can use it. And,
Nice.
and the guy said, why? You got your own F-14? I said, yeah.
Sort of.
Sort of, So when that strut arrived, the curator at the museum calls me in my office and said, what do I do with this? How do I install it?
Yeah.
I said, I'll be right there. My office is like right up the road. So I go down there and we got the downlock strut on the thing. The next problem was, and Puck helped me out on this one, the airplane was starting to turn into the biggest birdhouse on Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
But you could look through one end and out the other. And so could the birds. And they would fly in and they would start building nests. So I got a hold of Puck and I said, I need FOD doors.
Yeah.
He says, I can do better than that. I'll send it up to you. Next thing you know, I get another call in my office. And the curator says, there's 2 huge boxes here, wooden crates with your name on it. I'll be right there. They were the show covers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Okay, nice vinyl with the Felix the cat on the intake. And on the back covers, it just said VF-31. And we put those on. And that kept the airplane from becoming a birdhouse.
Yeah, that truly was the show covers. Those are the ones we took. I took it up to DC to Andrews. The show went there, and I took those on the road a couple of times. So yeah, I'm glad they're there now, or they were there at least.
Where do you put
Well,
those when you travel?
We got one of them. I don't know what happened to the other one. The curator's got it hanging in one of the hangars. I said, "Where's the other one?" He says, "The only one I could find." I said, "What about the ones for the nozzles?" He goes, "Nobody knew anything about that." So over time, things disappeared.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
So the airplane was neglected, and the Navy came one day. This is before the pandemic, to inspect the airplane, as they do at the airplanes we have at the Cradle or any museum. They come unannounced, no fanfare. They want to have a look-see.
Yeah.
And I get a call from the curator of the Cradle, Josh Stoff, friend of mine. I've known him a million years. And he goes, "You're not going to believe this, but the Navy's down there looking at the F-14 in Bethpage, and they don't like what they see." I said, "How so?" He goes, "Look, paint's peeling, paint's fading. It's a mess. It's full of bird stuff.
Yeah.
Totally neglected."
It had been 14 years.
So he says, so I said, "Well, what's that mean to us?" It says it means that we're next on the list to get it, because the Navy inspectors from Pensacola just blew their stack and went, we're going to give this airplane to whoever's next on the list. And it was the Cradle, because we wanted it in the first place, but we couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Full politics involved there. So it ended up in Bethpage and rotted. And when we towed it over earlier this year to the Cradle, we have a restoration hangar. The museum is a series of old Army Air Force hangars. And the largest hangar is the restoration hangar. And when it got there, I get a call from the curator, and he says, "Yeah, can you come over here?" Yeah, okay. So I was shocked at the condition of that airplane. Absolutely couldn't believe it. He says, "It's all going to get sanded down and repainted." He says, "But my problem is, we got painters that are going to paint it professionally, people that do paint airplanes for museums." He says, "But we're going to have to take 1 million pictures of this airplane so we get Felix back on the tail the right way, and all that." Okay.
Yeah.
I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll be back here tomorrow with pictures." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Because before they demilled the airplane, I did a walk around with my camera, and I took detailed pictures."
Cool.
Because, as Raymond will tell you, I needed reference material to build a model.
Yeah.
So that was why I took all these detailed photos.
Yeah.
Which now came in handy to repaint Felix and get Felix the cat back on the fin the way it's supposed to. Everything is back on that airplane just the way it's supposed to be. And we had the celebration back in September, the dedication for the airplane. People just couldn't believe it. And I sent pictures to Puck, and Puck wrote back. He says, "I can't believe how great it looks."
I'll tell you what, I saw the stuff that Lorenzo showed me or sent me, and I was like, that looks like I could go fly it tomorrow. I would take it.
Yeah, we just need some F-110 engines, some avionics, and something to sit on, and I'll fly darn thing.
I'm thinking one or two of the tanks might need new liners or something like that too, because they kind of degrade a bit over time. But anyway,
Well, you know, in those external tanks.
No, I mean the internal tanks. I'm talking about the bladder tanks.
Oh, okay, all right. Bladders, but that reminded me of something on Puck's airplane. The external tanks on Felix, his eyes were red.
Yes.
Okay. So
Did he tell you why?
Huh?
Did he tell you why?
He said something about this way nobody can steal the tanks and use them on another airplane. Or is there more to it?
I seem to recall there's more to it, but I'm afraid I don't remember the exact story why.
Is it better Puck tells the story, so it's more G?
It might be. It was done before Puck was part of 31, though. So, yeah, I don't exactly remember the story, to be honest. I can't tell it accurately, but there is a little more to the story. It's something. It's it comes from our phrase "we get ours at night," which was we were a squadron of night fighters.
I was thinking Lantern had something to do with it. The first Lantern jet.
Oh no, way before that. We're talking like World War II. Yeah,
well, I have that patched right up here.
We get ours at night.
Yeah, we get ours at night.
Nice. So I think it has something to do with that. But anyway, I'll stop I can't exactly remember. I'm sorry to say.
I asked the painters if there was any way they could save that and not have to sand it off and paint over it. And the painter cut a frisket. That's paper. It's almost like a see-through. It's almost like a parchment paper that's very, very thin with adhesive on it. And he put that down over the cat and he traced around with a knife. Okay. And that protected it when they repainted the tanks. So when you see the airplane, that's the original Felix the cat and the red eyes on there.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Hey, Chet, tell us about that plaque you got behind you and that flag.
The what?
The plaque.
The plaque behind you with the flag, and tell us a little bit about that.
Can you bring that up to the camera, or is it on the wall too hard?
Well, let me see. Hold on.
And I will say, while Bill's getting this stuff, if nobody knows, which they probably don't, my brother-in-law makes the best, most awesome fixed model aircraft and war memorabilia that I've ever seen. He has top notch. Yeah, I remember as a kid that. All right, let's get into this. What is that?
That's a certificate of authenticity of SYPHIN and No Show flying the flag over Iraq in their F-14 105.
Look at that.
Does it have the date on it? I forget.
Yes, it does. Hold on.
It tells, I think, as I recall, it says generally where we went. But yeah, me and No Show. No Show was the guy I went through the rag with.
3 January 2006.
Ooh, almost my birthday. Hey there, check that out. So
and it's signed by you, and it's signed by Hey Joe. I mean, No Show.
Yeah, so No Show and I went through the rag together. Actually, we were in the same rag class, and we started flying the Tomcat basically together. Of course, I got to the squadron a little before he did because he was a pilot, so they had to go do their CQ. But that's pretty awesome. Yes,
there's a lot of reflection.
Great piece of history.
I think you can make it out.
What we did is we flew. We had a number of, I don't even remember where the flags were coming from, but we had a number of flags that people were. We were asked to go fly with us. I had a flag that I flew with me. It's over there. Anyway, I flew with me for all my missions. But basically, we would come back and we did write a short little description of where we had gone, and then they would do up the certificate and we'd sign it. And then obviously you got it. So that's super cool that we get to connect again.
Yep.
This I got from Puck. I don't know if you can read his inscription on there.
Oh, we can't really read it. What does it say?
Okay, it says, to Bill, thanks for being a friend. Best wishes, yours, Commander Jim, Puck, Howe, Felix 1.
Nice.
Because once he found out that, well, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm the one that's trying to save this airplane and display it properly. So I've been in touch with him ever since. And at the bottom of the plaque is, Fighting 31 patch.
Yeah, good looking patch like that one.
Speaking of saving airplanes, I got to get a bottle of oxygen and a defibrillator, and I want to bring you out to Grumman Memorial Park.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Boy, talk about a good
Dark
idea.
Sunglasses, so you don't really see them properly.
Oh, ow!
The only thing good about that place is my dad's got a tile in the ground with my uncle and my grandfather. I sure wish that would be refurbished.
I think the list is growing of people that want their bricks back is what's going on, actually.
Oh,
but
wow.
That's a story for another time, though.
Okay.
Yes.
Bill, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Could you share with us? Because, there's some parts that you retain it, obviously, in your memory that, people aren't aware of, weren't there for, or whatever. Could you talk about the last Grumman family day in 92? Calverton.
Well, let's see.
Or at least the last family day you attended, which I'm sure was.
Well, the biggest family day was 1980, and that was the 50th anniversary of the company. And we had warbirds flying in. We had Wildcats, Hellcats, Bearcats.
Nice. Wow.
Privately owned aircraft. I think there was a Tiger Cat there as well. And of course F-14 A6 and everything.
But there's still a flying Tiger Cat? Or that was 82. Okay, never mind. That's a while ago.
There's two Tiger Cats now at
Air Zoo.
I think it's one of those museums in California. It might be Pima, I might be wrong, but there are two in one museum. There's another one up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, at the Air Zoo, as they call it. I think they got just about one of each of everything. I don't think they have an F-14 up there.
Yeah, they did. Snort delivered it with John Ellis in the back seat.
Okay.
And John Ellis was flying that Tiger Cat. They did the demo together.
Yes.
Wow.
You know, awesome. I posted this on Facebook one day, that a picture, just what you're describing. There's Snort in an F-14, and he's flying alongside of an F-7F Tiger Cat. And I wrote, this is the first time you're going to see two Tomcats in the same picture. and the responses I got was like, what are you talking about? I said, in 1943, the original name of the F-7F was not Tiger Cat. It was Tomcat. Now think about how life was back then. Tomcat was a derogatory term. You called somebody a Tomcat because he had a lot of girlfriends. You were insulting them. That was an insult. So the Navy went, no, come up with another name, not that one. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So many years later, we're in the 1960s, so late 60s, early 70s, looking for a name for the F-14. And because of Admiral Tom Connolly and Admiral Tom Moore, the company decided to honor them by calling the F-14 Tomcat.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
Morality had changed a great deal in 20 years, so the Navy didn't. Hey, that's a great idea. That's a good name. No problem. You know.
And as I understand it, and tell me if this is right, but I've heard it said that it was sort of like referring to it as Tom's Cat, like apostrophe S kind of.
Yes. I've seen that on some paperwork at Grumman, but of course, it'd be like Wild Cat or Hell's Cat or something like that. So they just kept it a Tomcat, and the two admirals are very happy about that. They knew it was named after them.
That's a great story.
And of course, you know, the paint job was perfect in those days, gray over white, you know, just like a real Tomcat walking around the neighborhood, you know.
Yeah, right.
So it all sang, it all came together.
Fantastic.
And approximately 30 years later, we actually named our domesticated house cat because of the jet, so it's all full circle. Because he was gray on the top and white on the bottom.
Nice.
Well, so Bill, I wonder when 101 came up there and parked for the last time, were you there?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I figured you probably had been. You know, just it had been not long before that we had that last air show in Oceana, and of course 101 was certainly featured in that because of course it's the best looking jet ever to fly over Oceana anyway. So that's just my personal opinion.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Hey, the pencil nose, you can't go wrong with the pencil nose. You know, actually there was some I don't know, maybe you guys don't know this. When I first started flying with 31, 101 didn't have the pencil nose anymore. It was not pencil nosed. And and there was some discussion. Our skipper Suds and XO at the time, Twig LaBranche, had some. I'm lowly JO. I'm part of the JORM. It doesn't matter what I think. But they had some discussion, and they were like, "We want to put the pencil nose back on." And so they did. I guess they went back to kind of a historical paint job there, and it just was like, yes, looks good.
Yes, it's retro to the end. To what you guys had in the 80s with the F-14A.
When you transition from the Phantom to the Tomcat, the first Tomcats had the black nose that went out on Forrestal.
Yeah.
The entire squadron was Felix 101. The whole squadron, not just one airplane.
Oh, right. Because they all had the high vis paint jobs. Yeah.
That was your tribute paint back to them.
Yeah.
Hey, SYPHIN, was 101 always a rag outfit? Like always?
The F-101?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as my understanding is, it was reactivated to be the East Coast rag.
Yeah, because that's where I went.
but before that, it had been a rag squadron of some other jet. Do you remember, Lorenzo?
No, I would go back into the 50s because the Phantom wasn't using 101. It was doing
Yeah,
something.
I'm thinking it was like
F8.
a F8. Was it an
F8
F8
Crusader.
rag? I think it was the F8 rag. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So obviously they weren't used to having two-seat guys around. So when all these double anchor guys started showing up in 1970, whatever that was, when they stood up the rag, it was a little bit unusual. But yeah, it was basically always the rag squadron. Yeah, and
Wow.
and because of that, as you know, the nose numbers were quite variable. We had the 100 series, but they went up pretty high at one point. I think we had some. Did they even get up into the 170s? I know I flew 160s. The Ds that I was flying were all 160s.
I see.
But then on the West Coast, were there 400s at the West Coast rag?
Yeah, I could never figure that out. 124 series was 400.
Yeah.
And then they had
Interesting.
another series of 600. And somebody told me that 600 series meant they were TARPs F-14.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting. Which is a very strange thing to me because I never flew a jet that wasn't TARPs. So that weren't TARPs capable.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly flew without TARPs, but yeah.
Every D was wired to be a TARPs airplane.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. I mean, I understand why it wasn't originally, for sure. It makes sense. But in terms of, just the interoperability of all those jets, it was nice to never have to think about which jet was available for which mission. It was what jet's available. That's all you had to think about.
Yeah.
Pod is huge. It's at NAS Wildwood. They have the stand for it and suspended in the stand for transportation purposes. And the thing is just large. It's like a miniature submarine, the thing. And I'm like, that
And it is.
a camera? I'm like, Goose had a little Polaroid in the back. Click, click. Like, what do you do? Oh, my. You could just get great photos from it, though.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
And
I'll
we were
tell you,
actually
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I'm just saying, I just had just awesome memories of my brother-in-law, I almost think he saw me born and just was always a great brother-in-law to me and more like a brother than anything, and always took me to air shows and included me in his life. And because I think both of us didn't want to be around my sisters. They were just too much. But he always took me in car shows and air shows and just taught me a lot about racing and airplanes and helped me build my first model and things like that. So hats off to you, Chet. And I love you, brother.
Love you too, pal. Love you too.
Absolutely awesome, man.
Well, I'm thankful to have been able to be part of this little kind of unusual session. It has been nice to get to chat with you a little more, Chet. I know we were trying to do this a little while ago, so it's good to actually finally wrap up the bow and actually, man, I'm just super happy that we, like I said, we sent out these kind of thank yous, not exactly thank yous, but appreciations of, flying a flag over enemy territory, out of a recognition that what we were doing was both something that a lot of people would have liked to have done. I know lots of guys didn't get to fly in the Tomcat that wanted to, but also as a recognition that what we were doing was for the country, politics aside of why we were in Iraq. We were there to accomplish a mission, and getting to and remembering that we had the support of people behind us, like you guys, made it very, very worthwhile. And every time we packed up a flag, you couldn't do that without thinking, this is going to go to somebody. And Chet, I'm pretty psyched that one was. Where's my helmet bag? Oh, here you go. Literally in this helmet bag. I mean, that flag was flying right here.
Cool.
And now it's on your wall. That's pretty cool.
You can ship that bag to the studio as soon as possible.
Say again?
You could ship that bag to the studio as soon as possible.
No, it's got my helmet in it.
Leave it. Yeah, zip it closed first, and then put it in the bag and zip it.
Anyway, Chet, it's been good to get to know you a little bit. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Yeah, I have to
Well, it's my
mention
pleasure.
also. I have to mention also, Bill. Today, people could find you. You're over at the F-14 Tomcat Association, correct? You're a plank owner over there, if I'm correct.
Yes, I am. I'm on the board, and I'm the association's historian.
Hmm.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're still currently active out there to getting that
I
history.
feel like I'm still in the F-14 community when I'm at a board meeting or at a reunion, and I meet up with old friends, make new ones. You
Yep.
know, I didn't know everybody that flew a Tomcat at the same time, but I run into people that did back in the day, make friends with them.
Hmm.
Uh, does anybody know Crunchy Burgess?
Oh yeah, Crunchy.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, Crunchy's hooked up with Pat Marsh and the Warrior Flight Team with the L-39s,
Oh yeah.
right? At the reunion in Virginia Beach, 2016, a friend of mine got a ride in the L-39 that's painted black, known as Vandy One. And lo and behold, I'm looking at this guy and I'm going, I know this guy. You know, I can't think of his name. And he's looking at me thinking the same thing. So person introduces us and he goes, I know him. F-14D NATOPS. And he goes to this whole thing, right? I went, oh, wow, this is cool, right? So my friend gets a ride for $3,000. And we're going back to Crunchy's car. And he gets me aside and he says, Pat wants to know if you know anybody that can get us into the Jones Beach Air Show. That's a big event here on Long Island every Memorial Day.
Yep.
Well, naturally, I stood there and said, sure. I knew somebody who could probably do it.
Hmm.
And Crunchy says, yeah, if you can get us into the Jones Beach Air Show, Pat will give you a ride. I said, what's the catch? He goes, just got to pay for gas, which is not what he normally charges people to take him up. So make a long story short, I got him in the Jones Beach Air Show, and his partner, Bill Mills, had a L-39 painted blue and white, call sign Roman 86. So I get there 8 o'clock in the morning with my flight suit, my Nomex flight suit. I'm all ready to go. And now the air show is going to start. So nothing can be flying around that's not authorized because of the performers. So Crunchy tells me we have to wait till 3 o'clock when the I think it was the Thunderbirds were flying that year when they're done. Okay.
Mhm.
But then this thing got pushed off to about 6 o'clock because all the vendors that sponsored Pat and his airplane, like Averix and a couple of the others, was sending people to get a ride. And I'm sitting there forlorn, like, yeah, you know, this ain't going to happen today. So Crunchy and I went into one of the facilities, got a Coke, sat down, and I said, this is not going to happen today, is it? He goes, oh, yes, it is. He says, he's taking the last one up now. And when he comes back, we're both going up. I said, what do you mean we're both going up? He says, I'm sure you remember what ACM stands for. I said, sure do. He says, well, we're going to chase one another's tails over the Atlantic Ocean. All right. So sure enough, you know, they gas up both jets. I get my helmet. Well, they gave me a helmet to wear. I'm in my flight suit. I'm in the back seat. I'm not touching a thing. And off we go.
Nice.
And we flew out over Great South Bay, Long Island, which says there's twin bridges that connect the island to Fire Island.
Hmm.
And I watched those bridges pass, and we're gaining altitude. And Crunchy says over the intercom, check your 4 o'clock. And I look, and here comes Pat in Vandy One, pulls up alongside, starts talking about the rules and regulations of what we're going to do. And the next thing I hear Pat say is "fights on." And holy shit, that L-39 just went like this, you know. And I'm looking out the window, I'm looking at the ocean, and I'm like, oh, holy crap, I can't believe this. We did 3 of these ACMs over the Atlantic Ocean. We lost each time. Pat, all of a sudden I hear over the intercom, guns, guns, guns. And then Crunchy would say, roger that. And then Pat would say, knock it off, knock it off, knock it off. And then he pulled up alongside of us so that we knew where each other was. Ready? Yeah. Did it again.
Yeah.
3 times.
Nice. Nice.
And I'm not ashamed to admit that I managed to keep everything down until the 3rd one.
Two.
You know, and as we're doing this, we're going further east. We're going from due south of here on Long Island, due south, be Bayshore. We're like the midpoint on the southern coast of Long Island, but we're working our way out towards Montauk Point where the lighthouse is. And Pat had said once the lighthouse is in sight, then we're going to turn around and go back to Republic, which is what we did. So Pat went ahead, and Crunchy says to me, we're flying low level, not bothering anybody. I'm looking at Long Island off to my right. And he asked me if I want to fly the plane.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Now these L-39s are made in Czech Republic, and they try to get more bang for the buck with one airplane. It's a fighter, it's a bomber, it's a trainer, it's whatever you need.
Yeah.
So he says, be gentle, just pull back on the stick a little bit, and you go up, push it forward, you go down. You don't need the rudder pedals, move it left or right. You're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Yeah, he said, the airplane is yours. So I grabbed the stick, and I swear to God, I don't think I pulled it back that much, and we're going straight up.
Yeah.
And very calmly, he says, well, give me control back of the aircraft, please.
Yeah.
So I let go of everything, and he leveled it out, got back down to the altitude. All of a sudden, I could see Long Island again. I went, how far did I go? You know,
Yeah.
he says, let's try this one more time. So on the second attempt, I did not reach outer space, and I did not break the sound barrier. I just flew it, but I know I was flying it because I'm making moves to go, you know, left, right, a little bit up, a little bit down. No rolls, none of that kind of Blue Angel stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And when we got pretty close to Republic airspace, he said, all right, I have to take control of the aircraft now because we're going to be approaching the airport. So reluctantly, I said, okay, you know, aircraft is yours, and sat back, and he circled the airport, and he got into the pattern where they wanted him, and he landed. And I'm telling you, when I felt those wheels hit the pavement, man, it was a downer. I'm going, shit's over, man. But that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
One of the guys I made friends with over the years was the West Coast Rio. His name was Bart Bauer. You know him, SYPHIN?
I don't think I do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show you what he sends me.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting how he turned ACM training into cosmonaut training.
Exactly.
Oh, I can
all in the same
loaded
hop.
with surprises, believe me. Okay. So Bart was a Rio with VF2, VF154, and he gave me a call sign. He asked, because I had asked, how do you guys get these nifty nicknames, man? That's really cool, you know.
Yeah.
So he gives you, SYPHIN, you already know how that happens. So he explains it to me. And in the course
you'll have to, anyone who's listening will have to listen to a previous episode because we described it in great detail, at least one of those.
Okay. So he gets into a huddle with these 2 other guys and said, we got to give Bill a call sign. You know, because they appreciated my enthusiasm. And this was my very first NATOPS conference. So from Monday to Friday, I suddenly made friends that just, you know, it was great. So I said, one guy says, we're going to call him the Great Artiste. And the other 2 go, no, that's too long. It's got to be short. All right. So they're trying to put their heads together. And Bart says to me, how long have you been with Grumman? You always been in tech pubs? And I said, no, I worked in the shop. He says, oh, really? He says, what did you do? And I rattled off all the things. And when I got to a resting hook, he said, stop right there. He gets in a huddle with these guys, and they almost simultaneously said, do you know what we call an arresting hook on an F-14? And I said, yeah, a stinger. Because the black and white stripes as they were painted back then.
Yep.
Henceforth, you will now be called
Stinger.
Nice. That's a great one.
And the Rio wings for the fact that I sat back seat in the fighter jet.
Okay.
Nice.
So I got this from Bart Bauer,
Okay.
Oh, cool.
complete with
That's all you gotta
Velcro.
do.
But I don't wear it because I'm not really a Rio. So
Yeah.
it's in front of one of my models on the shelf here.
Nice.
Awesome.
So
Nice.
things like that, and things like having a flag given to me that was flown over Iraq mean an awful lot to me.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
And most of all, I'm proud that I was able to contribute to the F-14 for you guys, because in a funny sort of a way, I felt like I was still serving my country.
Absolutely. There's
Yep.
nothing funny about that. I mean, that's
Nope.
totally true. Yeah, honestly, we recognize as a team effort. There were 5,000 of us out in the Persian Gulf or whatever, something like that, floating on the TR when we flew that flag. But when you look at the families, okay, that's probably about 20,000. And then you look at the guys who made the boat that we were on, the Roosevelt, okay, that's 10,000 people at least. And you took the people who made the jets, another 20,000
Yeah,
people probably.
yeah.
I mean, it's a huge team.
It
And
is.
you guys absolutely knocked it out of the park with the jet we got to fly. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it is
That's
it is a real blessing to have you here. I know we can't talk to all 20, 30, 40, whatever 100,000 people it is. So you're representing. Thank you for representing tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Wow.
completely concur. I mean, just on this very show right here, the history is just, and I think a lot of you guys listening out there, I think you all really do appreciate the fact that Ray Borelli was over at Plant 6 doing final assembly work on a Tomcat, while over in Pubs printing the books to that Tomcat was Bill Barto. And literally, SYPHIN took that Tomcat to war,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
you know, in the defense of freedom for every last, you know, person on this planet. And it's such a signifying moment. And Bill, again, we thank you for coming on the show. It's absolutely great evening tonight with you, and some amazing history. Thank you again. It's just absolutely
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you.
I would like to leave you with this one bit of historic irony. Back in the 30s, when Grumman delivered the first fighter plane, the FF-1, it was a two-seater. It had a fully enclosed canopy, cockpit, and had retractable landing gear.
Mhm.
It operated from Republic Airport. It wasn't called that then, but it was nothing but a great big grassy field.
Mm.
Now, fast forward to 2006, and when Felix 101 touched down in Farmingdale on a concrete runway, it's the same real estate that FF-1 took off from, the first delivery to the Navy.
Amazing.
Oh,
There
there you
it
go.
is.
You guys,
There you go.
I
Gotta
don't know if you
tilt it
guys
up.
can see this, but
See,
Tilt it up just a little bit.
when
Tilt
I
it
got
up
out
just
of
a
the
little
Navy,
bit.
my brother-in-law Chet, he actually
Yep.
drew this for me. It's,
There you go.
First fighter and the
VF-5,
last fighter.
the Red
Beauty.
Rippers was the first squadron to get an F-14 fighter. And that one there that I drew, that's the first one that took off from Farmingdale when Grumman had a facility there at Farmingdale. And of course, the company grew to the point where it had to find a bigger digs, and they ended up in Bethpage.
Very
But
nice.
the F-14 that landed was landed on the same ground that aircraft took off from.
Yeah.
That is
Yep.
great history. And yeah, Rippers got the first F-14D. Absolutely amazing. And again, I can't thank you enough for tonight. And you're welcome back anytime on this show.
Thank you.
Great evening, gentlemen. And I want to thank everyone out there for listening. You could find us on Instagram at F14 Tomcat. You can find us at YouTube at F14 Calverton ATG for all things Grumman. Also, check out our merch over at Teespring. And you can email us at F14Calverton@gmail.com. Again, thank you, everybody. An amazing evening.